In this video, I want to share with you 6 of my favorite automotive wiring tips that's going to increase the quality and the productivity of your wiring. If you're installing aftermarket accessories like light bars and stereo systems to your side-by-side, your boat, your Jeep, your truck, whatever, these tips are going to increase the quality of those installs. Tip number 1 is when you got to run 2 wires like a power and ground wire that I have here. A great way to clean this up rather than run it as 2 strands is to actually make this 1 strand of wire. You just put the ends of the wire in there like that, then take your 2 wires and put them into the end of a drill like this. Now you want to pull these wires fairly tight, but not too tight that you're stretching the wiring. And there you have it. For a cleaner install, you can take these 2 wires and make it into 1 little harness. Tip number 2 to dramatically improve the quality of the connections of your wiring. If you have a tool like this, go ahead and throw it in the garbage. Get yourself a high quality set of crimp tools like this one and maybe some automatic wire strippers like this. These tools are basically garbage. Trying to cut the wire with these wire cutters that comes on there, I mean, you crimp it down and it's like doesn't cut very well. You're having to like pull and stretch, and stripping the wire is also not very easy. Trying to get this across, you're stretching the wire and pulling, and it's a horrible tool. Also, when you're using the butt connectors and you're making a crimp connect with this tool, and you line it up to the blue dot, try to crimp that on, you got to put a lot of force into there. And then it's very common and very easy to pull these things apart. Not a good crimp tool at all. Spending a little extra money on a high quality set of crimpers is going to go a long ways. You can cut the wire way easier with a tool like this, and a set of wire strippers like these here, I'll put a link in the description below on these, but you can quickly strip the wire back, and when you use the channel lock crimp tools, it's going to hold together a lot better and have a lot less likelihood of the wire coming apart. The last thing you want is a loose connection. That's nice and strong. It's not going to come apart like it will with these low quality crimp tools. The third tip is when you've got a really large gauge wire like this 4 gauge wire here, your standard wire crimpers is not going to crimp this connection. So if you've got a bigger ring terminal that you need to put on there, an easy way to make this connection happen is with one of these hammer crimp tools. All right, so the 4th tip I have is a soldering tip. So many YouTubers overcomplicate this. It's really easy. Basically, you take the contact surface that you're going to solder your wire to and just heat it up and apply some solder to it. And then take and apply solder to the wire that you're going to solder to the speaker. Put solder evenly over the wire. Simply put, all you need to do is put some solder on each contact surface that you're going to solder and then heat the 2 together. Double check your connection. That's a really solid connection. It's not going to come apart. You can even do this with wire too. Basically, just put some solder on each one of your wire connection points and then solder your wires together. It's a really solid connection that will not come apart. Super easy, super fast. You can also add some heat shrink over the solder connection area. Now you have a really solid wire connection, just as if the wire was never broke. Tip number 5 is to always install a fuse in line anytime you're adding any aftermarket accessory to power. Fuse holders, basically you just stick the little fuse in there like this. However, if you don't have one of these laying around or you don't have access to one, I'm going to show you how to quickly make one. Strip your wires back, put a couple quick disconnects on there, take your fuse and your quick connectors and put them in there like this. Just take some electrical tape and wrap that around your connections. Wrap it fairly tight. All right, so there you have it. Just a really simple fuse holder that you can make yourself. Don't have one of these laying around. This is a good option. All right, so the last and final tip is to pick yourself up a computer-safe test light like this. This is great for testing power and ground. If you need to test a fuse or something like that, you can test fuses to make sure they're good really easily by just touching the top of the fuse. Touch each side like this. As long as the light lights up on both sides, you know that the fuse is good. If it doesn't light on one side, you know the fuse is bad. You can also test for ground by taking the clamp end and put it on a positive terminal and then touch anything that's ground like this ground terminal and it'll light up green, showing that you've got a good ground.